Hey guys, this is Toniko, and I want to make several few announcements. The first one being I'm going to try something that's similar to a video log where I talk about casual things, and these things can be random or things that I'm thinking about right now. And it's presented in a very casual way, accompanied with process videos of projects that I'm currently working on. Making YouTube videos and editing them is already very strenuous in terms of my schedule. It's very hard to maintain a channel like YouTube when you're working on a bunch of personal projects. And this is something that kind of gives me anxiety. And in order to keep my presence in terms of sharing with the online community what I've been up to or what I can share, I think it's better to find a way to still make videos that work with my schedule. After doing some therapy, I realized that I need to start prioritizing on projects that really feel passionate for me. So I'm going to talk about things that I'm thinking about or things that's happening in my life and work while I showcase, actual production footage of personal projects that I'm spending most of my time on. And also, after talking to a coworker at work, most people that I know would usually have a podcast that's playing in the background while they work. And I think this is a good way to just talk about the stuff that I want to talk about with that mindset. So for this video log or video journal or a recording, the first thing I kind of want to talk about is really an announcement. So during this summer break of July 2019, I actually finished boarding and making a like reel or animatic of a short film that I've always wanted to make. Well, the short animatic ended up being about 28 minutes. It's close to 30 minutes. So I finished boarding it. I finished putting it together with sound and music. It's actually a video. And after I finished it, it was like taking a huge burden off my back. It felt good to finish something that big and something with a story that was close to my heart. The story is about two chefs who become best friends through their growth from their childhood to their adulthood. And it takes place in a location that's inspired by Southeast Asian settings, inspired by the times I grew up in Indonesia, the Philippines, consuming Southeast Asian food. This is a film that is quite personal to me, and I kind of wanted to represent the things that I was surrounded by growing up. So I screened the film to a few of my friends, some of those friends being the scratch voice actors for the characters, and another few in the Philippines, because I want to see how an Asian audience would react. Now, here's the interesting thing. I showed the film to a friend in the Philippines, and after viewing it, she said that it felt like a white man's take on Asian culture. And it kind of concerned me because, for one, I'm not white, and second of all, a part of me wants this film to represent Asian culture. And when I asked her, why did it feel like a white guy story to you? She didn't really give a clear explanation, but one of the explanations she gave is that it kind of reminded her of Kung Fu Panda, where, the characters have very Western characteristics. The storytelling is kind of Western, yet the setting is set in an Asian setting, like China. I said setting a lot, didn't I? So after she said that, it made sense, but I wanted to see how other people felt about it. So I shared the film to my sister, and my sister is a fantastic story person. She can point out, story flaws. She can also point out, how to improve a story better. She's so fast at giving great notes. So I shared it to her, and, every time something happened, she asked a lot of questions and things were really hazy. And that is something that I want to address. When I'm working on the film alone and only I see it, I have a specific viewpoint or vision for it. But when I show it to other people, they have a different viewpoint on it. And some things don't make sense to them, whereas things make sense to me. It's pretty much tunnel vision syndrome. So my sister pointed out some story elements that confused her or it didn't sit right with her. But when I brought up that a friend said that it felt like a white man's take on an Asian culture, she sounded a bit confused too. But then after she watched it, she kind of was able to break it down. So here's what my sister said. The view of food in Southeast Asian culture is it's more humble and spiritual than what I had in the film. The film had treated food as if it was a sacred competition, or like it was just, chefs duking each other out. It's a competition. And that is quite a Western viewpoint on food, according to my sister. So she was talking to me about how Southeast Asian people view food. She said the view of food is more ceremonial. It's a time where family members get together, and it's very spiritual. I remember when I visited Bali as a kid, there were food offerings laid around the streets of Bali, and I think this was because the main religion over there is Hinduism, and when they left food, it was food for the gods or food for the spirits. And after I was reminded that, it kind of made me think about how I wanted to portray Asian culture in this short film of mine. First of all, I want to appreciate that notion of how food is seen in Southeast Asia. I think it's beautiful, and I really want to represent and capture that. And I do agree that the film idea that I have, or the film story I have so far, the competition does make it feel like a generic white person's take or a Western take. I'll just say Western take on food culture. My sister did say that she had no problems with the whole island treating food as a competition thing. But then, a part of me does want to appreciate the more spiritual culture of Southeast Asian food. I think it is a theme that is worth exploring. The second big note that my sister gave me was that the main character is really unlikable. It is my intention to make the main character unlikable. That is the thing that I want to go for, because I want to find ways to make an unlikable character redeem itself. The story is about redemption. But what this character does, well, according to my sister, is just so unredeemable and unforgiving. And when she was watching it and I saw her react to that, then I realized that there is something wrong with the film. And this is where I have to think about, is this the right direction that I want to take the story? Is this the type of message I want to get across? And after thinking about it for a long time, and after seeing how my friends and my sister reacted to the character and what he does, I don't think it's the right direction I want to go for either. The third criticism I got from my sister is that it's unclear whose viewpoint I'm telling, who's the main character in this story. The only thing that's clear is that the main character narrates the story, so it initiates that character as being the main character. But then, near the end of the half of the film, the point of view does switch, and we get a different story that's kind of outside of the main story. After these notes, my sister gave me a few ideas on how to make it clear, how to make the main character more likable or redeemable, how to give him more of that human touch, that humanity. So after that screening, it was actually kind of stressful for me. That whole weekend, I just sat in front of the computer trying to brainstorm rewrites. I felt like I needed to make some major changes to the story. I decided to take one of the main characters out because it does raise a lot of questions of what this world is about. That's one thing I learned. If there's another character that just brings up more questions and, detracts from the main heart of the story, you might want to consider taking it out. So this was a very hard choice for me because I thought this character was charming. I thought this character added more depth to the story and connected some of the few main characters, but in the end, it does raise a lot of different questions, and I have to take her out. So taking her out meant that I needed to make some very drastic, almost change the story completely, because she does play a big role. But again, she kind of misleads things. The thing I realized that's hard about rewriting a story that you're passionate about is that even if you know the original draft that you wrote is close to your heart and you feel that it's a story that you're so passionate about, and because of its problems you have to rewrite it, it's hard to rewrite a better story that is, that screams volumes for you, that is close to your heart. I can come up with a film idea that logically makes sense. The structure is all solid, it's technically solid, but it's not a film that I would want to make because it doesn't make me emotional. I have no emotional reaction to the film. And when I think about making films, I think about how I feel emotionally to it. And during that weekend, I really had to dig deep of what themes I wanted to explore. What is the heart of the story? I know the heart of the story was about friendship, but what did I want to say about that, and how do I make that more unique in the new setting that I want to talk about. The view on food that the Southeast Asians have, food being ceremonial, it's a feast with the family, it's spiritual. I think it's beautiful, and I think that's worth tapping into. But how do I make that work with the characters I have? I want the story to be about redemption, but I also want to make the heart of the story, which is about friendship and redemption, relate to that spiritual, ceremonial, family aspect of food. And after that whole weekend, I finally came up with an idea that I kind of like and something that hits close to my heart. I found ways to make the characters relate to that. I found a way to make the main character, even though he's not a good guy, you can understand and appreciate his viewpoints. The first draft felt more like this character just wants to obtain something, whereas this new pass that I'm working on, the main character wants to not only obtain something, but he wants to do something for the community. He cares about the community. So that's something that I've been exploring a lot too, to make this character worth the redemption. So I had to break myself. I had to basically kill this baby that I made and make a new one that's better, stronger, faster, and harder. And it is a huge learning experience for me. It's a very self-reflecting journey. But this is nothing new for me because all the short films that I've done, they've been redone at least once or twice. And the reason why I redo them is because I know that I can tell a stronger story if I kept working on it some more. So here's my advice to people working on short films. Do a draft. Do one draft of whatever you have planned and work on a version that is viewable for other people, like make an animatic of your storyboards and see how they react. And then you'll notice that they've caught all the holes and the pitfalls that you didn't really see while you were working on your short film. And after absorbing all their notes, you kind of have to make a strong decision, whether you have to break it down and rebuild it, or you just leave it as it is and just keep fleshing it out. But if you know in your heart that the current direction that you have is not the right direction, then I would consider to try at least making some new drafts, some new treatments for your short. Unless you have a tight deadline, then you might have to work with what you have and just build upon it. And I set deadlines for myself too, but my heart tells me that yes, I do need to redo it and I don't have a strict deadline. So I chose the latter. I decided to rewrite most of the story and I'm going to have to board a new pass on it. It does suck. Like when I realized that I made that choice, it really broke my heart because it is a lot of work and it was a story that was close to my heart, but because there were just way too many issues that I had with it, I have to go back and think about it. I did pitch the new version. I did pitch a new take and premise to my sister, and she seemed to like it, and she wants me to move forward with it. The new script is actually shorter, but knowing the scenes of each sequence, I feel like it might be a bit longer than what I have in the original animatic. It's basically a mini short feature film. Once a story is actually locked down, like super locked down, and I don't think it's going to happen for a long time, but once a story is done and ready, I might kickstart it, or I might crowdfund it, or I might produce the film funded entirely by myself. I know this is a project that I can't do by myself, and I don't plan to. This is way too big for me, way too big for me alone, and I want to get the help from friends and from people, talented people that I do highly admire. And then let's say once I finish production, once everything is done, I'll submit this film to festivals if I can. And if it doesn't happen, well, that's something that I have to also accept because there are just so many other projects that I also need to focus on that is worth exploring too. Doing another short film, and probably my last short film, is a dream of mine, but I also have other dreams like, doing a comic or directing a feature, maybe pitching a few show ideas or movie ideas to different studios. There's just a lot. A part of me wants to continue the whole YouTube lifestyle, but at the same time, a part of me also wants to move back to Asia. But talking about a lot of different projects is something that I need to address too, because that's something I also suffer from, working on a bunch of different projects. But anyhow, that's all I wanted to talk about for this video log. That's where I'm at with the short film. That's what I've been up to during the summer. And we'll see how things go from there. I just want to say thank you for hearing me out. And if you kind of like this format, please let me know and leave a comment. This type of format feels realistic to me and it's easy for me to produce. If you guys like hearing this stuff while you work or do your own thing, and you enjoy the things that I talk about, let me know. But if not, then I'll probably just do it on my Patreon as a pledge. But then again, thanks for hearing me out, and I'm gonna get back to work.